Superstar running back Saquon Barkley has just agreed to a new deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, Barkley is leaving the New York Giants after being drafted there and playing there his whole career, and is now heading to a division rival in the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you don't understand how big of a move this move almost pulled Jason Kelce out of retirement. But of course, Jason Kelce is now gone, so the O-line for the Eagles does get a bit weaker. Won't matter too much because they still have one of the strongest offensive lines in the league, and I'm sure Saquon Barkley will take as much advantage of that as need be. He is a stud, has been a stud, and definitely deserves the $33.7 million he will be making over the next 3 years. And there's enough incentives in this deal that it could potentially be worth up to $46.7 million. Now, there was a bit of a rumor that the Texans and the Eagles were in a bit of a bidding war. However, the Eagles just so happened to pull away, although I think it would have been very exciting to see Saquon Barkley play with a young and up-and-coming quarterback like CJ Stroud. However, the Texans decided to pivot and just trade for Joe Mixon from the Bengals, which was a bit cheaper, and I'm sure it'll work out for them in the long run. But anyway, we're here to talk about Saquon Barkley and what this means for the Eagles going forward. Now, the decision to go out and spend on a big-name running back like Saquon Barkley is very telling. I think it shows the rest of the league that Howie Roseman and the Eagles front office is in a win-now mode, and that makes complete sense. This team was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Were they able to get the job done versus Kansas City Chiefs? No, not really. However, they still have a lot of their core pieces from that Super Bowl run, so it makes sense as to why they are trying to make a push here. And if Howie Roseman and the Eagles front office feel like this is a good move, I'll believe them, because their track record as of recently has looked really good, okay? And with the Eagles collapsing last season, it makes sense as to why they're trying to, mix things up, sprinkle a little bit of more, excitement in this team. Now that DeAndre Swift is gone, they were obviously in need of a running back, so Barkley fits that hole perfectly and is a way better improvement. Not to throw any shade at DeAndre Swift. I mean, he went to my Bears, okay? I think Swift is a great running back, but compared to Barkley, yeah, he stands no chance. So the Eagles, with an already fun and exciting offense, get another piece to the puzzle. And I think this piece takes them to the next level. And I know that a running back's lifespan in the NFL isn't very long, but he is only 27 years old. He's still hitting his physical prime. I don't think the end is near for Saquon Barkley. I don't think this move to the Eagles is where he falls off and loses all relevancy. In fact, I think it is a step into some of Saquon Barkley's best football. I think he will play some of his best football with the Philadelphia Eagles. Why? Because a heavy load that has been on his shoulders since being drafted into the NFL is now being taken off. If you watched any of Saquon Barkley's games with the New York Giants, then it becomes very evident that their entire offense revolved around how Saquon Barkley was going to perform. Daniel Jones is so mediocre and so mid that Saquon Barkley's play is what I believe got Daniel Jones that massive contract, okay? I don't think Daniel Jones gets paid in the same way if he didn't have Saquon Barkley his whole damn career. Let's be real. Saquon Barkley got Daniel Jones paid. Anyway, now that Saquon Barkley doesn't have to do as much for the offense because he has a quarterback like Jalen Hurts and star receivers like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on either side of him, Barkley can kind of breathe a little bit and get back into that prime form that we saw early in his career. And if you look at his numbers, it's not like this guy lost a step or anything. In his 6 seasons in the NFL, 5 of them, he's played 13 or more games, which is what I think you can ask from a star running back. It's more than what you can ask for. The only season in which he wasn't able to play due to injury was back in 2020. That was the COVID year, okay? I'll cut him some slack. He only played 2 games, but he's bounced back. Comeback player of the year. He finished 3rd in that in 2022. So even the NFL has recognized that Barkley has bounced back after that, terrible injury all those years ago. And Barkley's last season with the New York Giants, it finished on a pretty solid note. He had 947 rushing yards in 14 games, 6 touchdowns on the ground, and while the Giants might not have looked as good last season, Barkley, he still looked fantastic. If you saw him running on the field, you were terrified. If you saw him suited up, you knew that it would be a busy day for you on defense. What I'm getting at is that Saquon Barkley is an absolute pain in the ass for any defensive coordinator who has the game plan against him. Now, he also ended up having, I want to say, 4 touchdowns in the air last season, along with a couple hundred receiving yards, putting him at about 1,200 scrimmage yards for the year. And it might not have been his prime, it might not have been the best numbers ever, but it sure as hell is good, especially in the league at this time, where running backs are seen less and less valuable. They've had to fight recently for the contracts they've been getting, and shout out to the guys who have come before Barkley, who have really, decided to hold out so that running backs could get paid, like a Le'Veon Bell. Okay, Le'Veon Bell, I think, helped the market. Sure did he kind of get screwed over because, no one decided to give him a deal, and then he went to the Jets and just wasn't the same. Maybe his career was hurt from that. But I think him and running backs that came after him who decided to hold out, like a Jonathan Taylor, also helped the running back market so that guys like Saquon Barkley could get paid, all right? And if we take a look at Barkley's prime, and I think we should, right, because that's the Barkley that everybody remembers, I would say those are his first 2 seasons in the NFL. In his first season, he had 15 total touchdowns. 11 of them came on the ground. 2,000 total scrimmage yards. Yeah, those numbers are probably why he won Offensive Rookie of the Year and was a Pro Bowler. Coming out of Penn State, these are the kind of production that you would expect from a guy like Saquon Barkley. He really lived up to that college hype that he built for himself. And he had 1,300 of those yards on the ground his rookie year. He was fantastic. If the team was better around him in his time with New York, he could have gone down as one of the best Giants running backs of all time. But of course, the lack of playoff success might hurt his case. Who knows, right? And then in 2019, he followed that up with a very good sophomore year, He went out and had another 1,000-yard rushing season. This time he only played 13 games, so who knows? Maybe he beats that 1,300 if he was healthy the entire year. He also had 6 touchdowns on the ground, 2 in the air, and put up pretty solid numbers, about 1,400 yards scrimmage-wise. But don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to talk about Saquon Barkley like he's some washed has-been, alright? Because the second time he made the Pro Bowl in his career was in 2022, after that major injury, in a year where the Giants as a whole were playing a lot better. How? I don't know. This roster was basically the same as it has been, and they somehow figured things out, won a lot of games, made it to the playoffs. I'm pretty sure they won their wild card matchup against the Vikings. The Vikings absolutely choked, and then would go on to lose the very next round. But whatever. This was more than the Giants could have expected. This was the year that Daniel Jones got paid, okay? But Saquon Barkley had a fantastic year. He ended up putting 1,300 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns on the ground. He really made things work for himself. They all wrote Saquon Barkley off, and he didn't write back, I guess. And then in the, air, receiving-wise, he didn't have any touchdowns, and he, managed to get 300 receiving yards, putting his total scrimmage yards at around 1,650, which is damn good. This is why the Eagles were willing to pay him the big bucks, because he is absolutely worth every single penny. And so, with all of that being said, I truly believe that Saquon Barkley is a real difference maker for this Eagles team and puts them as the favorite to win the NFC. I don't really care about the Niners, okay, or the exciting Lions. With Barkley on this Eagles team, they'll probably reach the Super Bowl again, and who knows, they might even play the Kansas City Chiefs, because that's how the script writers work. Anyway, catch y'all later. Much love. Just wanted to talk about the Eagles and Barkley. He's one of my favorite running backs, so why not make a video about it? Catch y'all later, like I said. Much love. Deuces.